on the 7 Network, I did a 9-minute segment on smiling. Oh my God, 9 minutes on smiling. Who in the world cares about it? And I was really a bit tearing myself up about it, going, I could have used that much more effectively. This guy called Duncan from Hillsville rang the 7 Network after I did the segment. Can I have Griz's number? And they said, no way, you can't have Griz's number. We'll let her know you rang. So I rang him and I said, hi, Duncan, it's Griz. How can I help you? And he had this really gruff smoker's voice. Griz, I need to tell you my story about your segment. And I was like, oh no. He said, my wife at the moment is about to die of breast cancer. She's in palliative care. And every day I go to her room and I walk in and I'm sad and she's sad. And our sons who are 18 and 21, they walk in and they're sad. Our friends walk in and they're sad and the room's sad. And we walk out and everyone's sad. Yeah. He said, I listened to your smiling segment as I was doing up my shoes at the end of the bed. I went down to the hospital or the palliative care place and I walked in and she was just about to have her lunch. And she turned around and I gave her this big smile. And she said to me, that was all I needed. That was how you smiled at me the minute you saw me walk down the aisle when I was going to marry you. Now I can go to heaven. It's the little sweat, the small stuff. You know, it doesn't matter. The big stuff's going to happen anyway. But it's the smile. It's the using someone's name. It's the making someone laugh. And as I said to you, and I say it to you guys a lot in some of my videos, but in the first 7 seconds, there's 11 things judged about you. But if you walk in smiling and feeling confident and just making people feel welcome with your body language, it changes everything.
Hello, video marketing professionals. Welcome to the podcast that takes the mystery out of producing videos. I'm your host, Chris Schwager, joined by Mr. Southall. Today, our guest is Grazina Fechner, the Director of Front and Center Training Solutions and an expert in leadership development and workplace training for all types of organizations across Australia and the Asia Pacific region. She's also got a wonderful team at Front and Center that all bring a wealth of experience to each of the programs that they offer. Griz is also a regular on Channel 7's The Morning Show. She's a podcast host and mum and brings a lot of fun and energy to everything that she does. So to bring a spark to workplace training and shaping the working environment for 2022, here's our chat with Griz Fechner from Front and Center Training Solutions. Let's go back in time. How did this all begin? The Front and Center Training Solutions.
Yeah, well, before that, I just want to say thank you for my introduction. And if you could introduce me like that at every congress and keynote and thing that I do, I reckon I'd be quite famous in the world. So thanks for having me. It's an absolute delight to hang with you boys and also your listeners, because there is a lot of stuff that we've got to talk about today. Who am I? Grazina Marita Fechner. I sound like a penicillin, and I was in the healthcare industry for many years, so I figured it was like a perfect match. Mum had 38 hours of labour, and the best name she'd come up with was Grazina. So I'm known as Griz. And I was actually a PE teacher. Who would have thought? And I had a really bad car accident and ended up in a wheelchair. And they said I'd never be able to walk again and I'd never be able to have a baby. I'd never be able to. Well, you know what? I got them wrong, because here I am and I do stand only 5 foot tall. But having had the car accident, I couldn't be a PE teacher anymore because it broke on my hip and I was in a wheelchair. So I had to find a new career. So I started off as a filing clerk at BDO Nelson Parkhill. Who would have thought that? And from then I got to be a receptionist. That was exciting. And then one day I was temping at a healthcare pharmacy and Upjohn office. And one of the guys there said, you know what, Griz, you'd be great as a rep in healthcare. And I was like, I don't even understand how to say the words. I don't know what all of those big pharmacology words mean. I could never do that. Anyway, I did. I ended up in healthcare for many, many years, became a trainer in oncology, hematology, metastatic breast and bowel cancer, lobbied for PBS stuff, working on government authorities to get, good oncology drugs to patients who are very, very sick. And they can't get the drugs until their tumour increases. And by then it's too late to get the good drugs. So it was my absolute passion in oncology. And then one day, 15 years down the track, I thought I'm sick of dealing with all this bureaucratic stuff in the world of training, and I couldn't say anything to teach doctors and teach medical fraternity stuff without being clinical trialled and recognised. So I thought I'll go out and do this on my own. So that's how the Front and Center company started, with another colleague of mine. And then from there, I've been in media for many, many years. I used to host a show in Brisbane called Out and About in Brizzy with Grizzy, and another live show called Vision Today, coming to you live on the Optus Network. We have got an amazing show lineup, so don't you go anywhere. So, I've done a lot of media stuff along the way, and then media and the training world sort of came together, and I do spend a lot of time on the 7 Network, and I spend time on the Today Show on 9, and that's talking much more business and redundancy and females in the workplace, whereas the Morning Show with Laz and Kylie is much more fly by the seat of your pants, a whole lot of gaslighting and everything from how to take back your Christmas presents with no receipt type of stuff. So, the world's merged together, and I'm genuinely the luckiest girl in the world, because this is my life. People say, what's next? Well, this is my next. This is how I'm going to survive the next 50 years. I'll be old and haggard and in a wheelchair, but try and stop me training and, just trying to get people to be the best version of them. And that's what inspires me. That's what I'm passionate about.
Well, we didn't connect via me seeing you on TV and going, I've definitely got to get that person on the show. We connected by our LinkedIn outreach and made a connection, cold connection back in the day. And here we are, I think year or years later now doing work together and doing these training videos. And what are the videos, I guess, doing in your business? Why video?
Yeah, video, because we talk about adult learning principles, okay? So we talk about the VARC models, and people and adults learn differently. So we can spend our life being on stage, talking to them. We can spend our lives making them do e-learning platforms. But videos bring all of that together, because with the videos that we do with you guys, we support them with workbooks. So we cover off all the adult learning principles. So the visual learners can visually look at the video. The auditory can not even look but turn off and have their sound. The read and write learners get their workbooks and they can work through the videos together. And then the kinesthetic, we make sure that during the videos, we get them to pause and go and do an activity. So you are covering off every single learning style by using this video medium technique.
How important is that, those three different learning techniques?
Like the 4 learning techniques, really.
Right.
It used to be the VAC, so the visual, auditory and kinesthetic, and then they added the read and write in. And if you've got a learner in front of you that is visual and you show no visual graphs, no visual charts, no visual ailments, they're not going to learn anything. So you need to be mindful that when you are delivering any session, be it video, be it face-to-face, be it on Zoom or on an e-learning platform, that you're encompassing all 4 learning styles so that anyone that is watching will learn from that.
Well, let's drill down into that, because I think that's a really interesting topic, because what I've found in presenting our workshops and what have you is just some NLP techniques that were taught about people, making people physically pick up their pen and write something. It could be, it's actually not that important what it is. It's just the physical action of them committing to doing something that triggers their brain to, I guess, need to listen more. Is that the kind of idea behind the action of getting people to engage in this way?
Yeah, absolutely. The read and write learners, it's really interesting. They will sit there in a session or watching a video and they will write down copious amounts of notes, and they'll write and write. And they'll think they're going to go home and put it by their bedside table and they're going to read it every night instead of reading, Grey's Anatomy or 50 Shades of Grey. Bring on your learning manual from the day's session. They never look at it again, Chris. They don't look at it. When they learn is why they're actually writing it. So they'll never look, they'll think that they're doing it, but all the learning happens while they're writing. The same as the visual learners. The learning doesn't happen with the posters on the wall of the timetables on the back of the toilet door. Remember back in the 70s when I was born, which was a really long time ago, you had the timetables on the back of the toilet door, so you'd learn your time, maybe not. Some of your listeners will know what I'm talking about. But it's not about that. It's the time. They're learning at the time they first see that visual. The auditory learners like to discuss. So they'll want that discussion with somebody. They'll want you to be talking to them through the process. So getting them to do an action related to their learning style is what's going to give them the best bang for their buck in the learning outcome.
Well, just to make you feel comfortable, I was born in the 70s as well, as was Brennan, so you're not alone.
High five us oldies, Welcome to the
you're not alone.
The generation, the best generation.
I had a workshop once, and usually I would wait, a couple of minutes before our designated start time. People could get coffees, and they'd have these worksheets in front of them. They'd like 3 or 4 pages, literally like half a dozen questions for people to go through as we would go through the 90-minute workshop. And there was this one person once that was just head down, bum up for like 10 minutes, ripping through these questions and just like busily writing through. And I was surprised, because I was like, oh, well, I actually worked through these with you together. Like, you don't have to feel like you got to complete all the questions right now. But obviously, like people, you have so many different personality types that learn in different ways. And I guess, how do you, as a presenter and as a trainer and a coach, understand, I guess, what is somebody's preferred learning style?
Yeah, as soon as I walk into a room, I'm already trying to work out, number one, what behaviour style they are, because that's really important. Some people just want information, bullet point, straight to the point, just do it. Others want lots of information. But their learning style, if someone walks into the room and they're starting to talk to other people as well, what's it going to be like, and straight away I know that they're auditory, because they're trying to already have a discussion with somebody. People that doodle a lot. So in my sessions, the minute someone sits down, they'll grab the hotel pad and the pen and they'll start doodling. That means they're that kinesthetic doer learner. So I know straight away that I've got to get them up and doing. So if there's an example I want to share with, I'll go to the doodler on the page and say, come up the front, let's do this together, because that's how they're actively, the visual people start looking around the wall and they'll start drawing, which is quite interesting. And the read and write will start writing down and ticking off the agenda. So if there's an agenda on the table at 9 o'clock, the welcoming introduction, they'll literally tick it off as a read and write learner. So I look for all of these signs and start thinking about, and that's the really hard part of being a facilitator and doing, be it live TV, being live keynotes, you've got to know your audience in an instant. So walking in, and I'm always everywhere. And now before I need to be, I set up. And then when people come in, I can start to observe what's happening in the room, and I can start to work out how to make people feel the good in that environment.
So you're getting feedback continuously and
constantly,
over years. And of course, over years of learning your craft, you probably do it as a sort of almost second nature. Is there anyone in the audience where you just go, I don't know what's going on. It's thrown me off. Do you ever have those moments where you go, I don't know whether they're in space, whether they're here with me, if they're looking, if they're engaging, if they're liking it, if they're not? Yeah,
I think the way I design the sessions is very first up, I make people feel really comfortable, and we do something really engaging and fun. And often when I go and pitch programs to companies, they're like, Grizz, that's not going to work. We'll give people an item and we'll say, go out and trade it up. Do you remember the red paperclip story about a guy that traded up a red paperclip and got a house at the end of it?
Oh.
No. Okay. This is really good. So he started with a red paperclip and he's like, I've got no money. I'm going to just trade up with no money and see what I can get. So he traded up and he got all these things. He got Kiss mugs that was so valuable. He got cars and he just kept trading up and then ended up with this amazing house. And there's a big story on him. So I use that activity a lot. And I say to people when I'm pitching, I'm going to give them a straw hat, and they've got to go out into the community and they've got to see what they can do and come back with. And the customers say, Grizz, that is never going to work. Our team won't do it. But it's getting them to feel really engaged and welcome when they come in, and don't fear, but also give them that, oh my God, what if I achieve this? And the things that people come back with would astound you. And there's no one that doesn't. And when they've done that, they're just like, far out, if I can do this, I can do anything in the whole wide world. So anything that we start with in training, we get them to believe in themselves. So it brings down all barriers. And some of those tough nut cookies that you get early on, I'm really more focused on them, and I pay them a lot more attention. And I change my questioning, and I give them things to do, and I make them feel important. And all people put a sign around their neck, and that sign around their neck says, make me feel important. And we're all wearing one. If you read that sign before you open your mouth, it then becomes about that person. And the minute you make them feel important and special, their barriers come down and you're off and racing.
So we all respond so beautifully to storytelling, and you seem like a native storyteller yourself. Somebody that's just...
Do you love a story?
Yeah.
Look, we do. Stories are so important.
And to my point, I guess, it's like just from personal experience as well, when I'm introducing stories, and I have at least a half a dozen in a 90-minute session, that people respond differently. They're activated completely differently. They go into the world of their own imagination and, I guess, relive it in their own kind of existence. But do you think, what's the place for storytelling? Are you strategic about how you introduce and use stories within your presentation?
Really good question. I think number one is, remember when we're first born, the minute we come out, someone's telling us a story in our arm at a minute old. It's like, oh, you were born yesterday and mum and dad did this. And then we sit around the campfire and we have stories, and we play card nights and we have stories. So stories are things that the very first thing in the world that we have. So we're innately involved with it. They evoke our emotion. They inspire our curiosity. They really make us, as you say, go into our imagination. So stories are key to your success in any presentation. Number one, in any video, tell a story, because people can relate to it. Don't just deliver people facts. Don't tell them bullet point, this, and this. Make it a story, and then people evolve their own story and their imagination goes wild. I don't have... At this point, I tell a story. So I might be talking about something, and I'll give you a really good example. I was on the 7 Network. I talk about smiling a lot in my programs. I say, smile and the world smiles with you. And it's really hard for people to be angry if you're smiling, and smile with your body language, smile with open body language. A smile doesn't have to be me now with a big cruise clown carnival. But when I talk about smiling, I'll often then refer to a story, and it could come anywhere in the presentation, or someone might say, oh, Grizz, I just struggle smiling, or, why does someone want to see me smile? And I'll say, well, interesting you say that, because on the 7 Network, I did a 9-minute segment on smiling, and I left the studio and I thought, oh my God, 9 minutes on smiling. Who in the world cares about it? And I was really a bit tearing myself up about it, going, I could have used that much more effectively. Anyway, this guy called Duncan from Hillsville rang the 7 Network after I did the segment, and 2 days after, and he said, can I have Griz's number? And they said, no way, you can't have Griz's number. We'll let her know you rang. Well, they didn't let me know, and Duncan kept ringing the 7 Network for 7 days.
Oh, wow.
Finally, 7 rang me, said, this guy, Duncan, I don't know if he's a stalker or what's going on. I thought, you know what, he deserves my phone call. So I rang him. I said, hi, Duncan, it's Griz. How can I help you? And he had this really gruff smoker's voice. Griz, I need to tell you my story about your segment. And I was like, oh, no. He said, my wife at the moment is about to die of breast cancer. She's in palliative care, and every day I go to her room and I walk in and I'm sad and she's sad, and our sons who are 18 and 21, they walk in and they're sad. Our friends walk in and they're sad, and the room's sad. And we walk out and everyone's sad.
Yeah.
He said, I listened to your smiling segment as I was doing up my shoes at the end of the bed. I went down to the hospital or the palliative care place, and I walked in and she was just about to have her lunch, and she turned around and I gave her this big smile, and she said to me, that was all I needed. That was how you smiled at me the minute you saw me walk down the aisle when I was going to marry you. Now I can go to heaven. And the minute she said that, he said, my whole world changed. He said, I rang those boys and I said, you bloody come in and you smile at your mother. Don't you dare make an awful face. Just smile at her. And he said, I put a sign on the wall and said, do not enter unless you're smiling with a big smile. And he said, the room changed dramatically, and I have you to thank for the last moments of her life. She saw that smile. Anyway, she passed on 4 days later, and they invited me to their funeral because he said, you've made such an impact. So what I say to people all the time is, it's the little sweat, the small stuff. It doesn't matter. The big stuff's going to happen anyway, but it's the smile, it's the using someone's name, it's the making someone laugh. And as I said to you, and I say it to you guys a lot in some of my videos, but in the first 7 seconds, there's 11 things judged about you. But if you walk in smiling and feeling confident and just making people feel welcome with your body language, it changes everything. And laughter truly is the best medicine. And as I said, 437 kids laugh 437 times a day kids laugh, and only about 15 times do adults laugh a day. So don't be afraid to be funny, and don't be afraid not to. Andrew Denton, who's a media journalist, always says that. He says, don't be afraid to be funny. It's okay to make people laugh. It's okay to smile, because that expresses emotions. And in the world that we live in at the moment, all we need is sometimes someone to smile, or a good belly laugh, or some dopamine in your brain.
Yes.
So yeah, storytelling.
Yeah. And I'd like to explore this transfer of information and energy, if you like, to, for you now starting your video training, video marketing journey. You're not new to the world of media and all of that, but with regards to how you're using your videos to engage your audience in a virtual sense, what are some of the initial problems that video was solving for you in, just the first series that we did with you, for instance?
Yeah, we can't get to, so the first series we did was for international videos. Now we can't get over to India to help them. A video can get to India in 30 seconds. So from a cost perspective, videos help us remarkably. From our audience not being at the moment with COVID, we can't travel. So we can't give our messages, and we can't give that dopamine and all the stuff we were just talking about then to our audience. But video's allowed us to do that. And it's allowed to do us cost effectively. It's allowed us to do it in a shorter amount of time. And it's allowed us to be really diligent in what we are delivering, so that people aren't wasting time online, because people are sick of being online.
Yes.
So it's really short, it's sharp, it's quirky, it's still funny, it's activity based.
Yes.
So it's hitting every single notch we would normally do in a face-to-face space, with the added addition of being able to captivate the world now, not just locally.
I remember when Cam was in the studio, you guys were talking about these constant FAQs and just, almost getting barraged by the same question over and over. And one of the videos, I think, was dedicated to just, covering off that in thorough detail and making sure that was really clarified. How has that now worked for you? It's been about a year since that's been produced. How has that worked for you? Is it sort of lightened up on the one-to-one stuff? Yeah,
well, it has lightened up on the one-to-one stuff, and obviously that's due to COVID and everything else. But I think what's interesting is now people are knowing that we're doing videos. We're having requests from customers coming to us. So we're filming tomorrow at the studio, because we've now got customers saying, Grizz, can you do some presentation skills videos? Until you can get to us, we can't have our team not being trained. So it's the perfect solution. And they're not getting, it doesn't replace the face-to-face, which is what I was really worried about early on. If I'm to be honest to your listeners and to you, I was thinking,
please be honest.
If I just do all these videos, I love being honest. If I just do all these videos, what's going to happen to me? I'll be making myself redundant. And the bit I love is the face-to-face stuff. So I don't want to be made redundant. But what we're finding is it's that gap that I can't fill at the moment.
Yes.
That doesn't make me redundant because they get a piece of me and they're like, oh my God, we can't wait to see you live. Because it was so good on video. So we've created a whole new market for ourselves and we're selling all these videos that we never thought possible. And it's easy to do. Like I come to you guys, we knock it over and it's there for the client within the month and we can add the animations and we can add all the cool stuff. So it's not just for all your listeners. It is not just me talking, add a video. There's animations, there's activities, there's workbooks. And it's like the complete package. It's awesome.
And what about, let's talk about delivery, because you said you were charging for videos, which is it's reasonably uncommon with our clients. I mean, usually the types of videos that we're producing are marketing style content. But how are you delivering this? Is it through some kind of, like how are you monetizing it?
Yeah. So, with this particular client that we're working with tomorrow, they came to me and said, Grizz, we need a solution because we can't have you. What can we do? And straight away I said, well, we can do this video, showed them some of the previous things that we'd done. And they're like, that's what we'd love. And normally what I would do is make everyone pay a license. So if each person's viewing the video, they've got to pay a license. But I think because we're so new into this space, we're saying, well, you know what, because it's a shorter version of what we'd normally do, here's the one fee, use the video as much as you want and make people feel good when they're watching it. So the other way we're doing it is when we're doing the Facebook ads. We do a lot of Facebook ads. So we're doing some clinic videos. We're doing some ones to help other markets work in an Australian market. And that's literally through some Facebook ads and marketing and some of our Indian clients that are sending them to India. And so there's lots of different ways we're doing it. And we're quite shocked at what people are really happy to pay for the videos because it gets them trained, a team that's trained.
Yes.
And they're not having to fly people everywhere and do everything. So it's a really good gap stop.
How do you measure success?
When they come back and ask for more videos.
Yeah. Right.
And I mean, even we get so many online, similar to the podcast, we get people emailing all the time. I just watched a video and I'm sending it to my family because even though it's on selling skills or communication skills, my whole family need to sit around and watch this video because you give some really good tips on it for life.
Yes.
So every video we do is a life skill. And I say that at the beginning, this is not just a 9 to 5 during your job video. This content is used 24/7 as a part of being the very best version of you, communicating to anyone in the whole wide world and having the time of your life.
It's so powerful, video on demand, and it really is underestimated what the full potential here. And Brendan, please step in at any time to
Thank you, mate.
I've
been waiting for my opportunity.
Brendan, over to you.
No,
what have you got to say? From the studio, over to Brendan, who's out at the...
I just want to get this out.
Collaborative discussion. But honestly, Chris, you're actually asking all the questions that I had in my mind. So
good.
That's the reason I've been quiet.
Okay, just keep quiet for a bit longer then, and we'll get to you in a sec. No,
Gee,
look,
I do want to hear from you, Brendan.
No, but my point, it's really just a point, and that is around on-demand video. I watched a little bit of TikTok, as I sometimes do, on the toilet, usually, and came across this video, and it was a pommy guy. It was almost very difficult to actually understand because he was such a fast talker, but I got the premise of what he was saying, and there was enough slang in there and F-bombs for me to get interested to go, who is this guy? I think he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And I scrolled through some more of his videos on his TikTok channel. And then I went over to, this guy has to have a podcast. And sure enough, he's got a podcast. The first episode of that podcast that I started to listen to, I was hooked into, and because it was right up my alley, it was talking on a topic around breathing that I absolutely loved, and I continue to watch, and now I'm a fan, right? But it wouldn't have happened unless this guy was on TikTok. That the 7 degrees of separation, that guy would never have reached my visual wall had he not been there, right? And so my point is around what you're doing is that visual presence while, you're being substituted out there, right? So don't feel like you've got nothing to do now, but how powerful is that in terms of growth, in terms of stirring up action and activity within your business, that you're there for them in so many different ways. You've got your podcast, you've got your social media. It's just endless, right? We've got the power at our fingertips now to have that type of exposure. And of course your Channel 7.
Yeah, but it's not even... TikTok is nuts for us with the podcast. We're getting a million views on something so ridiculous. Like it makes no sense to me, and it blows my mind that these 15 or 30-second, whatever we're doing, it gets people from Kazakhstan. We're number one podcast in Kazakhstan, which is ridiculous. I mean, who even listens in Kazakhstan? Anyway, but, I'm sure that's from TikTok. And we get these amazing, one girl wrote to us the other day because she'd seen us on TikTok and started watching it, or listening to our podcast and watching it because we have it on video as well. And she said, I'm learning my English from you girls. And we're like, oh God, do not learn your English from us because we are not great English speakers. Yeah. But TikTok is that platform that gets you, and similar to the videos with me, with clients, if there's a new induction of a girl that's come to them and they're now watching the induction video that I've done, then when I go and see them, they're so excited to come to training because they've seen a bit of me on video, and they turn up ready for Grizz.
Yes.
Or they leave a company and then they go somewhere else and they say, oh my gosh, this was a video that Grizz did for induction. You guys should do this for your company.
Yes.
And I would never have been passed around like that if I wasn't on a video.
Visual equity.
Being passed around. Yeah, it's really good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it is amazing. Brandon.
Visual equity. Geez, I like that. That's almost the sound of our next business.
I think I came up with that last year. Yeah.
I like it.
It's not a business name, mind you, but just something I invented.
Oh, okay. Trademark, Chris Schwager.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a short moment with Grazina Fechner. Working remotely using video or producing videos at scale means adopting new processes. Nowadays, video is everything, and do-it-yourself videos should be easy and they should work. The Ridge Films DIY video program is the easiest way to personalize your sales and marketing. You'll be able to produce sales videos, record regular social media updates, and of course, look and sound amazing in every video meeting without the tech hassles. Create your own professional videos with a push of a button and go to ridgefilms.com.au/DIY. I had a couple of people on, because we train people through on camera training and do our thing here in the studio, getting ordinarily people to present, and occasionally we would get, say, a Channel 9 presenter, and we don't bother training them up, right? They've got plenty of training. But they read the script and they read it like they're on 60 Minutes. And it's like, okay, that's not going to work. Can we just go another take, just a bit more relaxed? And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we could do it again and again. Like, they're very humble, but they've just been trained, drilled into them, hello and welcome to the Video Marketing Podcast. It's very
That's why I got sacked reading the news.
Right.
I got sacked reading the news. Do you know that?
No, I don't.
Because I smile when I speak, and when 10 people die in a car accident, because I couldn't be trained the news rate, so I moved on to weather and lots of other stuff. But I literally, because 10 people died in the car, because I smile. When I articulate, I smile naturally, and I had this smile in my voice, and I couldn't do it. But we hired Rob Canning at Front and Centre because he had been a 9 sports person for 10 years, and he was on Channel 10 Sports Tonight forever and blah, blah, blah. And then he couldn't do live training because he didn't have an auto cue in front, and he had people talking back to him.
Interesting.
So most people on TV are great at one-way talking, and they read the auto cue and they have their... But they can't do anything else.
Yeah. Hey, did you see, I've watched a whole lot of content over the Christmas break, and one of the things that I watched was the WeWork documentary on Amazon Prime. Did anybody see that? Okay. Oh, man. You watch it, you'll see how stuck this guy gets without a teleprompter. And he was, they all said, oh, you can't read from a teleprompter, which is bullshit, right? Because we know that everybody reads from a teleprompter with the right training. But it was horrible. And he had this, he's a very controlling guy, and he had this whole crew, this professional crew standing around for it seemed like an entire day, and he never got anything. He never got anything down on camera. It was just a complete train wreck because he was constantly trying to do stuff, off the cuff and be all, Steve Jobs about it. And it was a complete train wreck. But so
that people, like media people, as you say, Chris, they come in and they can't actually do all this other stuff that we can do. That's how they're trained. It's ground into them. They have that news presence about them, that articulation that doesn't really change. The news reading, it's great, but not for everything else.
Talk to me about this. Like, I had this discussion the other day with somebody around diversity. Actually, it was with someone that was looking to hire a Filipino VA, virtual assistant. And I said, well, what do you need the assistant for? And she said, like, oh, well, admin and this, that, and the other. And I said, yeah, that's interesting. But be prepared for the fact that you will be able to scale. Like, when you think about how Brennan and I started Ridge Films, we have spent 20 years diversifying ourselves through almost every facet of business and video production and marketing. It's unbelievable to the point where it's grossly distracting that you need to kind of rein it in and say, all right, I need to kind of hone my skills here and focus in on a couple of the more essential things here. But how, from your perspective, being in front of a lot of these corporates and businesses, how is diversity in their, like, in terms of skill set playing out in the corporate market? Is it a thing, or is if you're an account manager, you're an account manager and that's it, you'll never break away from that?
No, I think nowadays, especially with the younger, listen to us talking again about younger generation, they are coming in wanting to be entrepreneurs and they want to be managing director 6 months after they've been in a company. So we've had to change the way we lead. We've had to change the way that we develop people, because years ago we did go in as a receptionist, or we did go in as something, and that was our job. But now you look at even pharma and healthcare, they come in as a rep initially, and then they want to go into training and managing, they want to go into marketing. And so what they're doing now in the healthcare sector is doing internships. So you start off as your rep. And I think in healthcare, you need to start off as a rep, because you can't be a marketing person if you've never been out in field, right? So you need to be the rep, and then they give you a 6-month stint at marketing. So you'll go and do a marketing campaign, and then they'll give you a 6-month stint in training, and then they'll give you a 6-month stint in remote managing or coaching out in field. And then you can really find out what you love and where you're best suited for your strengths, and then they'll move you around. So they're really good in the healthcare space. Certainly other industries are not as progressive moving forward, but I think they need to, because when you look at the generations coming through now, they have grown up in a really different world, and they can become millionaires on TikTok. They can become millionaires on some e-commerce T-shirt that they make with some brand that they sell. So I think the times have gone where you walk into a job and you're in that position for a long time, because they don't want a house nowadays. They want to travel. They want to do whatever they want with their mobile phone. So they don't care about stability. And that's probably a really rogue comment that I make. But a lot of younger generation, they don't want the house. They don't want the bricks and mortar. They just want to go and be free and go and do. So they're not committed to that role long term. If you can't offer them development, if you can't offer them the new job that they're looking for, they'll just move and find it somewhere else.
Just one question before we wrap up. Are you able to kind of walk us through the different types of training that you do offer?
Yeah,
it's absolutely a very corporate question, but
it's a corporate question. And the crazy bit is nowadays people don't come to you with saying, I just want presentation skills. It's a mix of anything. But the main areas that we do focus on is communication skills is number one, how to communicate effectively to anybody, because that encompasses behavior styles and encompasses the way you talk to people and encompasses words, even things like the word fine. When someone says fine, that's not really fine. Diminishing defaults, I'm sorry, but everything before the but is BS, frankly, it's I'm sorry, full stop. So we do all the communication stuff. We do a heap of selling stuff. And it's not traditional sales where you go in and you ask your 5 questions and you throw 25 bits of information with them. It's an engaging sales process. So it's a 2-way conversation, and that's key to success, including relationship. We do presentation skills, negotiation skills, and the negotiation skills we use the police force, and we have people, jumping off crazy things and getting so real life tactical negotiation stuff. So we do a lot of stuff in that space as well. We do everything from product training in healthcare related industries. I've just finished doing Terry White Chemist on nicotinell and how to stop smoking, right through to oncology, hematology, everything in between, gastroenteritis, you name it, we do it. But most of all, the fundamental part of training is we walk in wanting to make someone better than what they are at what they're currently doing, and how that looks can be so variant.
We've had so many little side discussions throughout our filming session as well in the studio, and it's always interesting talking to like-minded people, and particularly around the communication side of it. And this interview has certainly opened up whole opportunities for us to have discussions in the future on the show. If you would be welcome and love to do that, we would love to have you on the show.
Back.
Oh, coming back.
Like a regular. I'm just going to be part of the 3 hosts now, and we'll just add another person. We're going to be like the project at night, the version, the project, they have lots of hosts. We can do the same.
I'll take your word for it, because I seem to just watch TikTok and LinkedIn these days, and the plethora of other on-demand services. Look, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you spending some time with us to go over this. I know that you'll be great to get on again and talk more in detail around some of these other areas of your business. If you want more information, go to Front and Center Training Solutions to learn more. What's the URL? I should know this, right? Front and centre trainingsolutions.com.au. Aha, in unison.
Something like that.
Jinx, as my kids would say. So by now, you should be able to ride the wave with the wonderful words of Grizz through modern leadership training for 2022. Keep your staff motivated and growing using videos, and keep your business thriving and strong. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Grizz. Love your work.
Thanks for having me.
Thank
so
you, Brendan.
Good hanging out with you blokes.
Thank you, Brendan, for your one question.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Brendan.
Love you
That's
both.
all.
Lovely on location. Happy days. Have a great day, everyone.
See you on location tomorrow. That's all for this episode of Video Made Simple podcast, and see you next week.